The assassins have already been dispatched. He just doesn't know it yet. The most powerful beings in this world do not fall easily. They are falling anyway. This is Divine Emperor of Death. Chapters 40 through 49. Elia? Davis's voice pulled her back from her thoughts, making her blush slightly. Mamau, that we have become friends. It's fine to call me Davis whenever we are alone from now on, but for your safety, don't call me by my name in front of others. Things will take a turn for the worse for you if you say my name in front of someone else, but even if it came down to that, I would take care of that. Therefore, you don't have to worry too much about it. I got it, D. Davis. Avoiding his gaze, Elia shyly nodded her head as her lush black hair fell by the side. So Elia, why didn't you push me back? I think you can answer me now. Davis grinned meaningfully. Elia's face went blank as she held her hands in front of her budding bosom and mumbled, "Tha that Ias is a maid in training. We are made to learn about knightly services. So I was quite ready for it, but the time her face was so flushed that it looked like a crimson apple." Hearing that, Davis became dumbfounded. "What? Did those bastards do something to you? I will surely get revenge for you!" Davis fumed with anger. What are they doing with little girls? This is unquestionably a crime in his moral notebook. No, we are only made to learn from Booksin, she hurriedly said, afraid that he might misunderstand but went silent again. And what? Davis had a blank expression on his face. And we are made to learn from that crystal you took yesterday. And what the hell? Pornography exists here too. No wonder she recognized what type of crystal it is. Davis became dumbfounded again, and he gulped. We are then made to practice with vegetables. She shouted and ducked, holding her legs as she hid her face while she went silent in shame. Ha 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 ha. Davis laughed, quite literally rolling on the floor. He hadn't had a laugh like this in his whole life. He laughed so hard that a little drop of tear rolled out from his eyes. Hearing that laughter, Elia felt like that she could just die from shame. Stopping his laughter, Davis became silent and realized that he had awoken to the pleasures of bullying his new friend. This is going to be so fun. All right, he lifted her shoulders and made her stand up. Elia, if you want to break out from this status you have, then you need strength. Strength is the basic form of power, and if you have it, no one will dare to look down upon you regardless of your status or your actions, he uttered seriously. Elia regained her composure and nodded her head. Inwardly, she wanted to meet his expectations. Davis uttered in a reliable tone, I'll teach you cultivation. So don't worry, it was said that teaching had the effects on comprehension where a teacher would be able to realize their own discrepancies in their comprehension, and that is why most male geniuses would gain disciples sooner, to verify their own comprehensions and grow. However, Davis didn't have such an attitude when he said that to Elia. Whether if it were fortune or misfortune, Elia became his personal maid, and he wanted to see to it that she is not a normal person whom he would not leave behind in the future. As a prince with self-awareness over what he's doing, he could have easily declined this so-called custom of the Lauret Empire if he remained adamant about it, but he didn't do so. Why? Perhaps the meeting was fate or coincidence, or felt like living the royal life he didn't know. Maybe I became too bored with my current lifestyle and needed something to make it interesting. Davis inwardly laughed as he tried to make sense of his actions. Thank you, Davis. Stop that, and there's no need for thanks between friends. Davis lightly shook his head. Look at that. You are already at the high-level meridian refinement stage. Elia became slightly proud. They said that I have some talent for cultivation. I heard that's why they sold me so expensively that only the imperial family could afford for a single slave like me. I don't know whether to be happy or sad about that fact, but I guess your talent is good, considering the stage you achieved at your age without many resources, Davis said while accurately trying to guess how high her talent was compared to others. However, talent could only be measured by the primitive form of checking a cultivator's age and cultivation before sticking a label onto them like genius, and other names. He didn't have a scale to check Elia's talent accurately. Oh, but I am pretty happy about that fact. After all, I was able to meet you. Thinking like this, Elia smiled in her heart. Whatever, let's go meet my mother. I want to introduce you to her as well. Oh, if it's the Empress, I have already met Her Imperial Highness once. Her Imperial Highness only gave me a single purpose, and that was to take care of you well. Hearing that, Davis had a smile on his face, thinking that his mother still cared for him deeply. All right then, I guess there's no need to introduce you then. You stay here. I shall go to visit her. In the Empress's quarters. Yui! Yui! Exclamation, a child incessantly wailing could be heard grating the ears of a woman. Now, don't cry, Diana. Mother is here. Claire tried to placate Diana, but it was of no use. After a few minutes, she suddenly stopped crying and slept peacefully. Diana possessed two pure sapphire eyes like her father, She remained chubby and incredibly cute. Her black hair was short and wavy. If she grew up, it was of little doubt that she would come to look like her mother, combined with her father's eyes and hair. Davis knocked open the door and went inside his mother's room. "Oh, Davis! Come here, come here. If Diana hadn't stopped crying, I would have gone looking for you," Claire said with a rueful expression on her face. "Hee hee, mother. Today I saw Evelyn Calden." Davis smiled, his lips curving into a grin. "Oh, what do you think about her?" Claire's eyes shot up as she probed him. "She is truly beautiful, and I think I've taken a liking towards her as well." "Ha ha, Davis! Just like your father, you two easily fall for women with beauty." However, hearing that, she was finally able to relax. Davis shook his head but didn't deny. Who didn't favor a beauty? A crippled man, perhaps, in a man with a broken or cold heart? Okay, there were many. However, Miss Evelyn could be in no way compared to his mother in terms of beauty. The two of them could be said to be worlds apart. However, in terms of figure, Miss Evelyn took the lead without even a need to compare. Or Davis should say that her figure perfectly fits into his type. "I guess that this marriage is now pretty much set in stone." Claire nodded her head in satisfaction. After all, she was the one who fixed this engagement in the first place. If this marriage got nullified, her face would be thrown away by her own son. Not that she cared much about something like face in the first place. "Not so soon, mother." Davis swung his hand. Claire did not expect him to reject, so she cast him a bewildered glance. He explained the events that took place when he was in the Calden Emporium. I don't think she likes the marriage arrangement, and if she doesn't like me, then just let her go." Davis spread his hands wide, but judging by the events, it looks like she isn't totally against the marriage as well. Claire deduced after hearing his story, "Then we'll have to see how it goes. If she doesn't want to be with me by any chance, then we will cancel the marriage." "Agreed." "I can't decide that by myself, so you should ask your father." Claire had a difficult expression on her face. They're the legendary diversion technique he had heard about, used by almost all the parents in his previous world. Davis sighed. "At least, you can't force her, okay?" "All right," Claire gave in as she shook her head. "So what about your new personal maid? Satisfied?" Claire smilingly winked at him. "Very satisfied." He winked back at her. "Wonderful. Mother pulled some strings to get her for you. However, she was quite expensive for a maid." She pouted as she thought about it. "Just for facts, how much did she actually cost?" Davis let his curiosity get the better of him. Claire calmly stated as she lifted up a single finger, 1 purple coin, 100 million copper coins. Davis had a dumbfounded expression on his face. So expensive. The currency in this world ranged from copper coins to purple coins. However, not limited to it, as goods like treasures, ranging from mortal grade to higher grades, could also be accepted. 100 copper coins equated to a single silver coin, 100 silver coins equaled a single gold coin, 100 gold coins compared to a single platinum coin, while 100 platinum coins compared to a single purple coin. Purple coins are made from plentiful earth-grade ores extracted from mines spread throughout the Grand Sea continent. However, every mine present that was found was more or less mined. Hence, only the currency was flowing in the Grand Sea continent, and purple coins became the top currency to exchange with currently. It was also written in the records in the Imperial Library that there was even a higher currency but disappeared in the passage of time due to the exhaustion of resources. Davis secretly shook his head, feeling that he had corrupted an expensive maid with his way of thinking. "By the way, Mother, where is Clara cooped up?" Davis asked, feeling a little bit sad since he hadn't seen her for a long time. "Clara, huh?" Claire heavily sighed. "That child isn't the same as she used to be for some reason. She is avoiding us, her father and mother," she said dejectedly and continued. "What did I do wrong? Did I wrong her in any way? Your father is afraid to deal with her since it seems that she can think for herself naturally like an adult, despite her young age. She only talks with you and won't talk much with us. I can also strangely feel that she maintains some distance from us." Claire bit her lips in frustration. "Honestly, you two are so much different than a normal child that we even hesitate to choose the choice of words while having a conversation. I know about you, Davis, but your little sister just won't open up to us, unlike you. All she does is give a short reply or nod her head and return to do her own work." "When did things get this serious?" Davis's eyes twitched. "Don't worry, Mother. This must probably be some kind of a misunderstanding on her part." Davis continued comfortingly. "Remember, Mother, even though she can process complex thoughts like an adult, she is still a child both in body and soul, unlike me. It would take some time for her to understand her own feelings." He paused before grinning. "If she can't, then I will just have to make her realize like a good brother." Claire became heartened and quickly embraced him. "I knew I could count on you, Davis. You're the best." A dutiful son is indeed a reliable son. He. After spending some time with his mother, Davis returned to the study. He had nothing to do except cultivating, so he thought that he could use this chance to teach Elia about cultivation. Elia, I said before that I would teach you cultivation. Davis walked up to her as he struck up a conversation. Hamelia nodded her head. It would be a lie if she said she wasn't interested in it. Davis wanted to know her current knowledge. Before that, what do you know about cultivation so far? I only know about meridian refinement stage. I haven't been taught any more than that. Elia shyly pursed her lips, feeling inferior again. Then try explaining that to me, Davis said. Elia looked taken aback, but her eyes narrowed, and she gathered her thoughts before explaining. Meridian refinement stage is where we refine our meridians by absorbing heaven and earth energy from the surrounding atmosphere. It is almost impossible to absorb without practicing an essence-gathering cultivation manual, which teaches us how to circulate the heaven and earth energy into the body and refine it in our danchan. The heaven and earth energy in the air is also impure, making it difficult for us to cultivate with that method. Hence, we have no choice but to rely on refined pills to quickly make it through this stage. Otherwise, we can only advance slowly by absorbing this impure heaven and earth energy. Later, we refine all the meridians in our body, opening almost all the meridian points and pathways until we can begin storing energy in our meridians for the next stage. Right, you have a good grasp of the meridian refinement stage. Davis nodded his head in approval as if he were an expert himself. Elia smiled innocently, genuinely delighted at being complimented by him. Davis then took over. Let me explain to you about the next stage, energy condensation stage. As the name implies, we start gathering energy from the surrounding atmosphere and store it in our meridians as we circulate the energy before finally storing it in our danchan. This causes our meridians to undergo a qualitative change depending on the element or attribute of energy we absorb. In my case, it's the lightning energy. With my parents' help, I've refined my meridians to be more inclined towards the lightning attribute. Hence, it can be said that I'm suited more for cultivating lightning attributed essence energy. Other than that, the pureness of the energy we refine and store in our meridian points and danchan depends on the essence gathering cultivation manual we cultivate. The purer the essence energy is, the more powerful we will be, even adding on the fact that our meridian points become more powerful, capable of storing more energy when we break through the next level in that cultivation system. Elia seriously nodded her head. She could understand his simple explanation. She thought it was way easier to understand Davis's explanation than reading through books, which really liked to make cultivation mysterious enough that she couldn't understand one bit of it. After this, he explained its concepts to her for some time before moving on to the body cultivation system. Let's move on to the body cultivation system. It isn't anything difficult to understand and doesn't require much comprehension, but requires more resources than the other two cultivation systems. We just have to absorb the energy from those certain resources and circulate it into our body, meridians, bones, tendons, inner muscles, outer muscles, and organs, making our entire body stronger in the process. The names of the body cultivation system in the early stages are organized by the aura we emit after cultivating it. After we keep cultivating and strengthen our entire body continuously, the aura we emit changes in color, indicating that we have broken through the next stage. In the copper stage, we emit a reddish-brown aura that envelops our body when we use the body cultivation technique. In this stage, only our flesh strengthens. In the bronze stage, we emit a refined brownish aura, and so on and so forth for the next stages. In this stage, the flesh and the meridians are strengthened. Also, it is rumored that the more you train your body, the more energy you can store in your meridians. However, since I haven't made much progress in essence-gathering cultivation, when compared to my body-tempering cultivation, I fail to see the comparison. Elia kept nodding her head as he explained. After that, he emphasized how to efficiently circulate the energies from the absorbed resources into the body. He also explained about the dangers of cultivating in body-tempering cultivation system. One wrong move and the worst that could happen to you is you end up crippled or even dead. Elia gulped, but also felt like she could now confidently cultivate with his help. Leaving at that, I guess I could explain soul-forging cultivation to you later. However, it is obvious that you are not ready for that. Okay, Elia obediently and adorably echoed. She was taking in all that information into her mind he said previously, so any more knowledge will become useless since she will undoubtedly get confused. Oh man! How do I explain soul-forging cultivation to her? It has the most mysterious and involves a lot of complex intricacies out of the 3 cultivation systems. Davis felt a headache, More than explanation, soul-forging cultivation concentrated more on the feeling, experiencing the resonance with heaven and earth energy. He knew that he was no teacher material, and he couldn't teach her what he didn't understand perfectly. In the Calden family manor at the royal capital, what? The little prince said that he would cancel the marriage between him and my daughter. Evan Calden, who was in his room, seated on a chair, suddenly went wide-eyed at the news as he stood up. His face looked as if it were about to explode. No, it's not like that, family head. A slightly fat man tried to explain. He was none other than George Calden, the Calden Emporium's manager, who came to report about the earlier event. Then what? The prince only told that young Mistress Evelyn has her choice to make and that he won't force her to become his concubine. If she doesn't want to marry him, then he stated that he would cancel the marriage with the help of his imperial father, the emperor. George Calden tried to articulate his choice of words. Evan Calden coldly snorted, "Camach, the Lorett family won't go back on their word. We aided them to cross two disasters, the rebellion and also the war. The marriage will occur as promised. Even if they don't go back on their word, what if young Mistress Evelyn refuses? The prince will stop the marriage from happening with having a good reason on his part." Evan Calden possessed a stern expression on his face before he heaved a sigh. He couldn't help but lower his voice. Did my daughter say anything? Young mistress didn't say anything and also didn't back out from the marriage. Evan Calden couldn't believe his ears. He knew his daughter best, but he had no choice but to sacrifice her for the Calden family's prosperity. But he didn't think he was sacrificing his daughter because he didn't know a more trustworthy family to marry his daughter other than the Lorett family. Marrying her to the Lorett family was the best proposition he could think of at the moment, as forming ties with the imperial family was also important. Otherwise, their noble family might meet with their end sooner than they should in the passage of time. It looked like young mistress was hesitating for some reason. This is also a piece of good news. George Calden widened his greasy lips as he smiled like a toad. Has she taken an interest in that little brat? No way! She was adamant about revoking this marriage arrangement when she was a child and remained like that even yesterday. What had happened? Even if you ask me, George Calden had a wry smile on his face. 1 whole year passed. Davis became 9 years old at this point. He grew up to 145 centimeters tall. His face began to more and more shape like his father, who undoubtedly looked like a lady killer. Combined with his mother's aspects, it is set in stone that he would indeed become popular among women in the future. Davis solely spent most of his time cultivating. He eventually reached mid-level iron stage, high-level infant soul stage, high-level energy condensation stage. He had entered the 3rd stage in body tempering cultivation while just being 9 years old. This was rather a phenomenal achievement that would make any parent in the Grand Sea continent proud of, including his parents. He can't meet Evelyn, or rather one should say that he put that matter on the back of his head. He was still waiting for her reply, but none came even now. He also made Elia train in body tempering cultivation and essence gathering cultivation. He made her train in the same cultivation techniques he cultivated without caring for the opinion of others. Her talent was great as well, but not to the point of being a genius. He managed to pull some strings with some random excuses to get the resources for her cultivation. Of course, if his father and mother found about it, even he doesn't know what will happen, but he had the confidence to take care of it. Elia achieved peak-level copper body stage and peak-level meridian refinement stage during this time. Logan and Claire also worked hard and birthed a baby boy during this year. Davis was elated that he finally got a little brother and a scapegoat to put on this empire's throne. Any more little sisters, and he thought that he would probably get diabetes. Logan mostly worked his butt off to see to the affairs of the empire. He only had enough time to meet Claire, and he didn't worry about Davis while he had no idea what to do about Clara. Clara became a 5-year-old. She started cultivating normally like any child in the capital city would do when they reached this age, but she unhinderedly tried to make quick progress in cultivation. She reached low-level meridian refinement stage and was already on the verge of breaking through to the mid-level of meridian refinement stage. But a day before, she was even gutsier than Davis and had tried cultivating body tempering cultivation system, only to fail miserably. She couldn't bear the pain and fainted. The remaining energy in her body went berserk and considerably damaged her small body. Fortunately, it was not fatal as Logan was beside her at that time. Logan, who had allowed her to cultivate body cultivation system, got severe thrashings from Claire. Of course, it had been all in Claire's room, or he would have lost his face big time. He didn't say anything as he also felt guilty about Clara. Davis, who had heard this incident, became worried and stayed with Clara in her room from yesterday. She still didn't wake up. Davis looked at her face warmly as he held her hand. Clara also tightly held his hands, but it was unknown whether she did it consciously or subconsciously. "Why are you trying so hard, Clara?" Davis muttered as he sighed again. He didn't know how many times he sighed like an old man from yesterday. He partially blamed himself for this accident as well. If only I had watched her properly, if only I had paid attention to her from that time. After all I said that to Mother about taking care of her. Talk about pathetic thoughts like these were swirling around his head, making him severely depressed. Just as he was wallowing in his depression, Clara's hand slightly twitched. It woke Davis up from his depression, and he anxiously shouted, "Clara!" Clara, who was lying in her bed, opened her eyes slowly as if her eyelids were heavy. Seeing that she was fine, Davis heaved a sigh of relief, much different from the previous depressive sighs he released. "Brother." She weakly smiled at him and called. Seeing that weak smile on her face, Davis lost himself in immense guilt. He felt like something was stabbing his heart. "Clara, I'm sorry. It's all Brother's fault. I shouldn't have left you alone at that time, no matter what. I've caused you meaningless sufferings. I'm so sorry. Even though you worked so hard, I've closed my eyes." Clara suddenly placed her finger on his lip as she weakly smiled, making him stop. "It isn't Brother's fault." A single sentence. That single sentence was like a spear that pierced through his resistance as he felt his guilt dissolve into boundless love. A single tear fell from his eyes as he bit his lips. Why do you try so hard?" Davis feebly asked. He couldn't understand. Clara was just 5 years old, and there was no need for her to be this hasty. In his eyes, she was a little girl who should be playing and smiling all day before falling asleep with a cute expression on her face. But she wasn't like that. He was a special case since he was a transmigrator and knew what he was getting into, and it wasn't as if he was blindly jumping into cultivation either. Only after learning all the possible methods and consequences had he decided to take this step. Clara slowly sat up and tightly embraced her brother as if she wouldn't let him go no matter what, "Because I want to stay with Brother forever." This time, she didn't try to hide anything as she realized what she had gotten into had equally harmed her brother. She had never seen her elder brother shed a tear before, so it had even more impact on her all the more. Davis stood there, stunned. He could feel her pure emotions of wanting to be with him by looking at her innocent face. He became dumbfounded. Then why was she avoiding them? Wasn't she avoiding all of them for a reason? Why? Why me? "Only you were there for me." Clara weakly replied as she bit her lips. "Me? What about father and mother?" "Mother and father both. They both lie to me from time to time as if they practiced it beforehand. Even other people in the Imperial Castle lie and deceive, and it makes me very scared. Only Brother didn't lie to me. Being with you makes me comfortable. Mother and father lied." "It can't be." Davis shook his head. "I'm telling the truth. My eyes have said so in turn," Clara desperately uttered. Davis nodded. "You truly think so?" "I believe my eyes." "Then, Brother will verify it for you." Davis smiled. Clara became stunned. No, before she can even reply, Davis sent a crystal transmission to Logan and Claire that Clara had woken up and was immediately requesting their presence. "It's fine. Brother will protect you." Davis strongly replied as he held her small shoulders. Clara nodded her head nervously. Previously, she was worried, but now that her brother had reassured her, she felt heartened. Meanwhile, Davis thought, lies? What possible lies? This is getting rather out of hand. Even I have no way to tell if they are lying or not. I guess that I'll just have to them directly in front of Clara. Indirectly confronting them can also possibly lead to Clara losing trust in me. No matter what, I just want to avoid that as much as possible. Not even a minute passed before both of them simultaneously showed up in Clara's room. It could be seen that they were truly anxious. "Clara, are you fine?" Both of them asked simultaneously. Worry could be seen in their eyes, but they also maintained some distance from Clara, afraid that she might possibly show rejection to them. Clara nodded head but didn't dare to look in their eyes as she thought that she would get into trouble soon. If she had looked into their eyes, then she would have noticed the worry and care in their eyes. Seeing that she kept her head down, both of them looked at Davis with a questioning gaze. "Cough, Mother and Father. Clara and I want to talk to you too about something." Clara visibly trembled, albeit slightly. "Talk. Is it a serious matter?" Logan probed. "Depends." "Perfect. I have something to talk about to you two as well," Claire replied. "I think what Mother wants to talk about and what we want to talk about is the same." Claire had a puzzled expression on her face. Davis's expression became solemn. "Now, I have a question to ask of you, and you both must answer honestly. Seeing that they were both clueless, he changed his attitude towards them for the sake of his adorable little sister. One could see that Logan and Claire had question marks flying all over their faces. They both couldn't figure out why Davis became serious all of a sudden. The two of you should know that lying to Clara is forbidden since she possesses the transcendent truth eyes. Not only would it give a bad impression, but it will also hurt Clara. Have you both ever lied to Clara before? Davis asked in a solemn tone. After thinking for a few seconds, Claire answered, I don't think I ever lied to Clara. Me neither. Logan shrugged with an innocent expression on his face. Davis turned his head only to see Clara being stunned. Her eyes were glowing, indicating that her eyes were active. Which is it, Clara? Are they telling the truth? My eyes seem to say that they are telling the truth, Clara uttered with a stunned expression on her face. Davis seemed to relax as he let out a breath visibly. Clara had a confused yet wronged expression on her face. But how? My eyes had also said to me way before that they have lied to me. Clara, believe me. We have never lied to you before, Claire uttered as she took a step forward. A misunderstanding? Davis softly muttered while he tried to make sense of the situation. Not a lie. If it is not a lie, could it possibly be harmless deceit? He considered. Clara, what exactly did Mother say when your eyes said that she lied to you? Davis narrowed his eyes as he asked. Clara got out of her bed and stood beside Davis. There are many instances of Mother and Father lied to me, she said with a wronged expression on her face. It was apparent that she held some grievance in her heart. Many? All three of them were visibly dumbfounded. Clara gathered her courage and said with a determined face, one such instance is when Mother said that she was going to the bathroom when I was around 3 years old. Mother only came to me after more than an hour. I questioned what she was doing there for so long, and she said that she was enjoying the bath, and so that it had taken her long to come out. Clara sniffled as she sobbed. I was waiting for her so long, yet she lied to me, seeing that the three of them look at her with furrowed brows and confused expressions. She clenched her small teeth and continued. Another instance was when Father was playing with me. He rarely plays with me, and even so, he says that he is really busy. One day when Father was playing with me, I accidentally fell asleep, and when I woke up, what I saw was Father beating Mother from behind her. He even hit her back with his hand. They then quickly separated when they saw me wake up. I saw it! Don't you try to deny it, Father! Mother's face was red, and she must have been really in pain. Clara began to cry while pointing her fingers at them. And when I asked Father about it, he said that he was just playing with her. Lies! All lies! Wah! Clara cried and sniffled. Tears kept coming out of her eyes as she was unable to stop it. And when I asked Mother about it, she also said that she was playing with him. Wah! Brother! They're just lying to me all the time, Mano. All right, stop. Clara, it's enough. I've already understood. Davis embraced and comforted her while patting her back. Clara kept crying, pouring out her emotions over to her brother that she held in her heart. After a few minutes of consoling, she finally stopped crying. Davis then let her out of his embrace. He then turned around and glared at his parents. Without even letting out a word of excuse, they both put their head down in shame. Inwardly, he sighed. He could understand that they had little time to approach each other intimately, as they had their duties as the Emperor and the Empress. But shouldn't they keep themselves properly in check in front of the abnormally smart and little Clara? All right, Mother and Father, care to explain yourselves to Clara? They both stayed silent, still hanging their heads low. Brother, does this mean that they admit that they have lied to me? Clara innocently asked, her face stained with tears. Sigh, Clara, they didn't lie to you, but Davis shook his head. They deceived you. Clara was taken aback. Deceive? Me? But why? Why don't you ask them yourselves, Clara? Go ahead. Your brother is here. They will answer you. Davis smiled at her gently. Inside his heart, he was laughing his ass off. He didn't want to let them easily go after they had created this mess. Clara nodded her adorably with a worried expression on her face. But when she turned around, her expression became solemn. Nevertheless, it was still cute. Mother? Why did you deceive me? There was no answer. Davis could see their eyes darting around. He could faintly guess that they were having a conversation using soul transmission. Father, why did you deceive me? Clara wasn't giving up. Her eyes moistened up again as tears formed over her eyes. Claire and Logan looked at each other's faces and sighed. Clara, it's too soon for you to know, Logan said. Davis narrowed his eyes. Seems like they're not going to admit it yet. Clara, when you said that Father was beating Mother, he was just using his pee-pee too. All right, I'll tell you. Shut up. Davis, Logan shouted out of shame. Then tell fast, Clara, and I don't have all day. We're busy with cultivation. Davis smirked as he patted Clara's shoulders. Clara cast a glance at her brother in admiration, astonished at that he can even talk back to their father at his age. Logan visibly raged while Claire just stayed silent. When she heard his pee-pee, she froze. Even though she did not know what it exactly meant, she could vaguely realize it. Fine, Logan calmed down and said, Clara, I and your mother were just procreating at the time when we deceived you. At your age, you shouldn't know all these things. Clara's face became confused. She could tell that they were telling the truth, but she couldn't understand why they would deceive her for this reason. Why? Isn't it just an act of sticking a male's genital into a female's one? What's so special about that mother and father deceived me into hiding it from me? You. Logan and Claire were entirely shocked to hear what their 5-year-old daughter was speaking. Davis also became shocked, but then sighed in realization. He came to understand her mentality quite well. You too? Who? Davis shouted. His shout instantly grabbed everyone's attention, pulling Logan and Claire out of their anger. Both of you are just forgetting that Clara is just a child capable of complex thoughts and emotions, not an adult capable of complex thoughts and emotions. Even if a child utters the word sex, that child will only think of gender, while adults will surely think of procreation. What she said is purely from her knowledge of reading books without any in-depth meaning to it. He paused a moment before sneering, unlike you two with impure thoughts all day long. Logan's veins popped up in his head while he clenched his fists, while Claire put her head down in shame. But they understood why they were wrong. They subconsciously treated Clara as a second Davis momentarily as she spoke something outrageous like her carefree brother. Davis is inwardly an adult, and Clara is a child in terms of mentality. They realized that they were wrong to treat them the same at this time. Clara's father and mother meant no harm. It was all for your sake. Davis tried to convince her. Clara nodded gently, her eyes showing faith in him. I believe in brother. Glad to hear that. So, it's all okay now, right? He asked doubtfully. Yes, I guess all the problems were with my eyes. She muttered regretfully. When will I be able to master it? Don't worry about that. You just believe in yourself, but also don't let a person's lie affect your mentality. Always be warm to family, got it? Dave M.H. Clara, replied Vetch. Clara replied vividly. A brilliant smile appeared on her face as she narrowed her eyes. After that, Claire and Logan apologized to Clara for their irresponsible actions and behavior. They assured her that they would never lie or deceive her again, while also indirectly mentioning that they would not act inappropriately in front of them. Davis also watched this comical sight as he thought that it served them right. However, for the latter, he doubted that intimacy was something people could control whenever they faced their beloved. This horny couple. Davis shook his head, but in truth, he was just jealous. After all, he might be a child physically but not mentally. It would be a lie if he said that he wasn't pent up mentally. His immature body didn't rather let him be intimate with women. This was undoubtedly a curse in his perspective. After this situation concluded, he bid farewell to Clara. He then made his way to his study. Just when he was halfway there, he got blocked by two fierce and aggrieved silhouettes. He suddenly grew to have a bad feeling about this when he looked at their two faces. Why are you two here for? His tone carried nervousness. Logan cracked his fists. Claire, I think there's this one calf over here who doesn't understand his position. That rascal! How courageous of him to insult the Emperor and the Empress. Claire piped in, actually not knowing how to act unrefined. Davis took back as he felt something's about to happen. What do you think we should do about this brat who thinks that he is so smart? I am thinking of. Just before Claire could answer, Davis ran away. Davis tried to run, and when he was halfway at the end of the corridor, Logan captured him over his neck. Claire, can I? Logan grinned. Permission grand de check? Davis shouted inwardly. At that moment, he knew that his life became forfeit. Bang! 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 Exclamation! Bang! 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 Exclamation. After some time, Davis could be seen battered while being carried by Elliot to his study with severe external injuries. Rumors spread about that one night in the royal castle about how a lonely ghost screaming miserably can be heard at that time. A week passed slowly, and Davis's external injuries healed gradually. Today, he healed completely. His parents didn't let him heal quickly and grounded him for a week. They also made these as his punishment. One day, I'll teach that horny couple what it means to suffer, Davis muttered as he blew his long blonde hair. He didn't quite think that they would injure him, although it wasn't anything severe as it did not leave any consequences. Claire just watched with a determined gaze while Logan gave all the beatings. Of course, he didn't mean what he said either, as he knew that he had rather gone overboard when he humiliated them in front of Clara. Who knows, they might have actually felt mortified to stand like a guilty convict in front of Clara. Davis, since you are fully healed now, why don't we stroll around the royal castle? Elia said with a sweet voice. She pretty much knew how he got injured, but she only laughed when he heard his plight. She truly became a friend, and only friends would laugh when their friends get injured over a silly matter. Seems like a good idea. Davis stretched and stood up. He exercised his body and warmed up. He stayed in the study while recuperating his injuries and didn't go anywhere out since he was grounded. And that caused his body to be a little rusted. Only Elia was there for him at this time, mostly taking care of his injuries. All right, let's go. Davis then held her hands as he dragged her out of the study. He then made his way to the Imperial Library with Elia in tow, wanting to get her some battle techniques that might suit her. Just when they arrived in front of the library, he saw Librarian Oxford. They both greeted each other, and just when he passed by, he was stopped by Librarian Oxford. Prince, bringing a maid into the Imperial Library is forbidden, Oxford said with a straight face and then added, even if it is your personal maid. In the past of the Lurid Empire, the maids obtain favor from the royal members and sometimes cause chaos, and for this reason their entrance to the Imperial Library was completely revoked. Other than this, there was also the matter of status to consider, so the maids had no say and were completely suppressed existences. Davis narrowed his eyes. He had a good impression of the librarian before, and he still did have, but the next words he heard irritated him. You are just a maid, don't bite off more than you can chew. Librarian Oxford berated Elia with a cold gaze. Why yes, I'll just wait here for Prince Davis. Elia responded as she put her head down, a little scared. Just a maid. Davis closed his eyes because he felt anger. He didn't think the librarian would be this type of person. He reasoned that the other party was just doing his job, but the last sentence he uttered to Elia that would make her feel humiliated went quite overboard. Oxford. Davis suddenly spoke. Prince Librarian Oxford trembled when he heard that shout. He had a vague feeling that his soul was suppressed at that moment when Davis shouted. I'll say the same. Don't bite more than you can chew. Since when did you get the authority to lecture my personal maid? But Librarian Oxford tried to explain. Davis widened his eyes. Where is your answer? I dare not anymore. Oxford put his head down. This shall be your last warning then. Davis nodded and stepped forward. Elia, let's go. But, my prince. The rules say. Davis shot a look at Librarian Oxford, which ultimately shut him up. They then walked inside and searched for some battle techniques suitable for Elia. Prince, there was no need for that. I could have stayed outside and not caused you any trouble, Elia remarked dejectedly. She was happy that he helped her but knew that he would ultimately get into trouble for this event. He was just punished by the Emperor. How can he be so protective of me, she thought, a vague sense of affection filling her heart. There's no need to worry about me, Elia. Worry about yourself. Davis just smiled back at her. Elia's expression sprouted a smile back at him as she nodded. Davis thought that he had revealed her a little too soon, and the situation seemed like he was too protective of her. If word gets out, then trouble will soon follow her naturally, twisting that Elia, the personal maid, had seduced the little prince for whatever reasons the heavens forbid. He perfectly understood this but thought, whatever. At that time, I'll just protect her again. In any case, he wasn't afraid of trouble, and the only ones who would dare talk against him were his parents. He felt that his parents would rather not make this much of a problem since they gave him free rein, but that too depended on his actions that do not go overboard. Elia, since you just cultivate the same cultivation manuals as me, I'll find a suitable version for you as well. Elia nodded obediently, listening to his advice. Davis then went, brought out some books from the shelves, and returned after a few minutes. First of all, these are the copies of all the battle techniques I train in, but actually I have already finished training in all these. He pointed at each one of these books and explained slowly, this is the devastating lightning palm, a low-level sky-grade battle technique. It can cause a devastating effect if you manage to hit the opponent's body with your palm by using this technique. They will be in a sorry state as their internal organs will be fried at the targeted place. Listening to the description, she nodded her head. And this one over here is Dhukov, Silent Erupting Finger, also a low-level sky-grade battle technique. This technique is a little difficult to train in. Other than that, it is a powerful technique that concentrates all your body tempering cultivation strength in your finger to erupt with incredible piercing power. This technique is useful for killing someone silently in the shadows. Hearing that, Elia's face went pale. She imagined her finger piercing into a person's chest. She restrained herself from retching right there and somehow calmed down. Davis noticed that something was wrong with her, but he continued anyway. He needed his new friend Elia to become a strong person if she was going to stay with him. This is the final one, known as thundercloud movement. This is the fastest movement technique that our empire currently possesses. It's a mid-level sky-grade movement technique. It creates a little sound that echoes like a clap of thunder when utilized. The first step you take while using this technique is an explosive step that you can use to quickly reach people's blind spot even in the 5th stage. So powerful, Elia gasped in astonishment. Even lower-grade battle techniques had more or less the same description, but the power exhibited would obviously be different. When used in sync with the first layer of Extinction Lightning Judgment, it shows an ability that's on par with a peak-level sky-grade technique, or so I heard. Davis indifferently pursed his lips. Davis learned a few battle techniques before, some that even uses his soul-forging cultivation, except they couldn't be called battle techniques, but supporting techniques, also called as soul technique or arts in some regions. The soul techniques he chose were known as dark concealing shroud art, soul suppression art, sacred mark art, and unholy brand art. Dark concealing shroud art is a low-level sky-grade soul technique. It is used to conceal a person's presence, energy, and soul aura using soul force. The soul force exhaustion is minimum, especially at night since it is dark attributed. Davis would have been only able to use this support technique if he had cultivated in a dark attributed soul cultivation method, but fortunately, he had his death book, which emits a unique dark and evil-like energy which actually is compatible with the technique. He learned it when he tried to practice it. Soul suppression art is a peak-level earth-grade technique. As the name implies, it suppresses the target's soul, causing the target to face heavy pressure. If the target is weaker than the user in soul-forging cultivation, then the target will not be able to make any movements at all, at least in theory. But if the target is stronger than the user, then the technique will provide a suppression effect, depending on the target's cultivation level. When Davis found these two support techniques, the sacred mark art and the unholy brand art, he was shocked. These two arts were soul techniques that can be used to brand a person's soul, making that person into a soul slave. Even though the name sacred mark art sounded righteous, it was no different than unholy brand art. These two battle techniques, also called soul techniques, needed a person to cultivate either a light attributed or dark attributed soul forging cultivation manual. Davis decided to train in both since he had both the light and dark attributes from his Sacred Luminance Mist soul forging cultivation manual and the Death Book, as well as for various reasons such as being able to throw his opponents off guard since it took only some of his time. There are many other battle techniques as well, but once you learn all these by yourself, even if you learn other techniques, it may not be much use since these are some of the top battle techniques we have. So what you are doing when you are in my study is secretly practice it. Now memorize these battle techniques. I'll stay here looking around for a few more useful techniques. Is it truly okay? If I get caught, you will be the one facing trouble while I might possibly die, Elia uttered with some worry in her heart. It's really fine. Even if someone got a complaint, it would have to go through my imperial father. However, my imperial father is the only problem since I think my mother wouldn't bicker much. Well, I'll handle it at that time. Davis casually replied. Is he thinking that he is above everyone else in the empire? Elia became dumbfounded. Though she was really happy and thankful towards Davis, she couldn't help but think that if he was an idiot, but on second thought, she knew that he was shrewd rather than an idiot. Davis would puke blood if he knew what she was thinking right now. Silently making progress on the battle techniques, they stayed at the Royal Library for a few hours. Davis saw many miscellaneous battle techniques. He took a liking to some of them and memorized for training in them at a later time. For example, the family disabling palm, which is aimed at one's kidney. It indirectly ruins a person's ability to use his member and renders it useless. The technique should be used precisely, or else it would only damage the target's kidney and not have an effect on the member. Another technique is called meridian crippling palm, which cripples the essence-gathering cultivation of the target if one can successfully sever the meridians, although he garnered that it is useless for someone at the higher stages. Davis became interested as he thought of using the family disabling palm on his father, but after a moment of contemplation, he thought that it was too cruel to his mother, so he let go of his evil idea. In the end, he decided to learn these techniques as they might be quite useful in this world. As he just finished memorizing these battle techniques, he went to look for Elia. Just as he saw Elia, he stood surprised. Brother told you to learn here, you say? An adorable voice echoed. A little child about 5 years old questioned with a cold gaze. Yes, Prince Davis told me to learn these battle techniques, which he recommended personally. Elia looked left and right, waiting for the arrival of Davis. Once she caught sight of him, she shouted, Prince Davis! Brother! They then both looked at each other. Davis laughed, ha ha, Clara, I was just about to visit you. Hampatch, you didn't visit me for a week. Clara pouted. How could I? Didn't mother take you to tour around the royal capital for a week? Yes. Clara's face brightened up. After that event, the relationship between Clara and her parents became normal again as they brought her out for a trip. The true reason they brought her out was to not let Clara find out about Davis's punishment, or else things would rather turn awkward between them again. Davis also didn't mention that to Clara as he possessed a tacit understanding with his mother Claire. He didn't want to create problems either. Good. Come, let me introduce you to my personal maid, Elia. Davis patted her head. Elia, this is the first princess, Clara Lauret, my little sister. Elia pays her respects to the first princess. She bowed down gracefully and smiled. Personal maid. No wonder she would say that you told her to learn here. Clara nodded her head in understanding. But that doesn't mean a mere maid can learn our sky-grade battle techniques, let alone stepping into the castle library. And the way she calls you Prince Davis, it's almost as if she is acting. Clara narrowed her eyes and gazed at Elia, like a hawk eyeing its prey. Elia's smile froze. A second later, she looked at Davis for help. Such accuracy! My little sister's kinda scary. Davis blinked. She only heard it a single time but managed to see the deceit in it. Ha! That's my sister. Honestly, you have the potential to become a detective, but I won't talk about that right now. You see, Elia is my friend, and she calls me Davis a friend, not a maid. Clara became confused. Davis coughed. What? Which is first? Clara looked at Elia and asked with anger. I am a maid, then a friend. Elia answered truthfully. She had no idea, but thought she should not lie to this person, since Davis seemed to be honest. Brother, she seduced you? Clara yelled as she stood in front of Davis and blocked him from Elia, eh? Isn't that the opposite? Elia inwardly cried while Davis facepalmed. This is going to be a headache, he thought. Clara, it was I who told Elia to call me Davis. I wanted her to become my friend, you see. How can a royalty lower oneself to be friends with a maid? Brother, this is atrocious and disgraceful. Clara looked behind and shouted furiously, though it still looked adorable. Elia put her head down in shame. In the end, her official identity was still a maid. There was nothing she could do about it. My life as a personal maid is going to end, probably even my life. Elia thought with a rueful expression on her face, afraid that she would be abandoned now that the secret was out. Davis couldn't get angry from little Clara's shouting because it just seemed totally cute and reasonable. Well, he couldn't blame her, as he understood she just accompanied her mother as she toured around the imperial capital, probably looking down on the commoners loftily. Sile, looks like I have a lot to teach her in the future, Clara, he shouted to get her attention. How are you going to explain yourself, brother? Clara asked with an exasperated expression on her face, feeling that she was right. You say that royalty shouldn't make friends with a maid. Then what do you think royalty is? Davis calmly asked. I don't question me, but I know I'm in the right ground. A sense of unease filling her heart. Could it be that I am in the wrong? The way her brother said it made her feel that way. Just answer. Davis frowned as he glared her into submission. Her royalty is of high blood and immense power. Commoners and even nobles are way below us in status and power, Clara softly replied as she never saw this side of her brother before. She slightly became anxious. Then do you think of yourself to be higher and more arrogant than any other person without possessing our kind of status? She stayed silent before nodding her head meekly. Then let me teach you a lesson. Davis shook his head. Clara took everything literally to the book, so there was no blaming her unless someone explained it to her. You feel that it is beneath your dignity to make a friend of lower status? She nodded her head again. Sigh, Clara, what if I say that there are more than 1 billion people who are way stronger than us, have a more powerful bloodline than us, but are still counted as commoners? What? This time, both Clara and Elia were astonished. How do you know that, brother? Clara shook her head, not believing it, but her eyes said the impossible was true. He paused before thinking, there's no way I can say that this is the normal template of a Xiangxia novel, can I? There's always a person above a person, a peak above a peak, heaven above heaven. Davis replied profoundly. Our continent is sealed as far as we know. So even though we have many resources, it is probably the same as trash in the outside world. Elia and Clara made an O shape with their mouth, symbolizing that they were dumbfounded to the extreme. So Clara, do you still feel yourself to be of royalty? Even after knowing that there are billions of common cultivators out there who are stronger than us in this uncharted world? Davis looked at her with a sharp gaze. Clara shook her head hurriedly. So, what do you think are the criteria for choosing a friend? If the compatibility between us is higher, then we can be friends. You remember what I taught in the past? Very good. Then Ellie and I have good compatibility. Do you now think that we can be friends, even though I am of royalty, and she is of commoner status? Clara looked at Elia before moving her gaze to her brother. She then nodded her head. Elia became inwardly astonished. She concluded that Davis had somehow managed to brainwash his little sister. Perfect. Then you can be friends with Elia too. Huh, friends? Clara curiously asked as she thought. My very first friend? Yes, we can be friends with her, and we'll both have the same first friend. Davis shouted happily, trying to trick her into being friends with Elia like a kid. As far as he knew, being cheerful worked against Clara. Wait a minute. Somehow this feels different. I feel like I'm tricking a kid in some other way. I'm no lollikin, Davis shouted in his mind. Same first friend. Clara's eyes glowed. She returned to her cool self and said as if it was a matter of fact, let us be friends, Elia. Elia had a helpless expression on her face as she looked at Davis for help. Davis just winked and imperceptibly nodded his head. Elia comprehended the meaning and sighed. Yes, Clarelia reluctantly smiled. How dare you say my name? Not again! Davis facepalmed while Elia froze like a statue. Somehow Davis managed to explain the stuff between friends. It took a whole lot of time to finally make them friends. Night finally arrived. He became tired and decided to return to his room, which was none other than the study. After a few minutes, Davis? Claire's voice could be heard outside the room. Mother, come on in. Claire opened the door and stepped inside as she ran her fingers through her glistening blonde hair. What is it, Mother? Are you finally here to console me? Davis raised his brows once he remembered how she let him get beaten. Claire sighed. I am indeed sorry for letting him beat you. Nevertheless, you still deserved it. Wah! Davis got his heart pierced by a spear. Though that isn't the reason I am here. Abish, I'm not listening anymore, Davis pouted as he turned his head away, acting spoiled. Claire ruefully shook her head. All right. Your mother is truly sorry. I apologize, okay? She squeezed his face and kissed him on the cheeks. Davis smiled and shook his head. I'll listen, Claire smiled back. Your father is going out of the royal capital for some business in a few days. I heard it was for the crowning of a new king in the Alfred kingdom. Normally, an emperor doesn't have to go out for a mere kingdom, but since it was under our jurisdiction and we let them down during the war, he has to show them at least some sincerity. I see. How many days will our father be gone? For all I know, it might range from a month to 3, Claire shrugged. This might be the perfect chance for me to sneak out of the royal castle, Davis thought excitedly, but he had a calm expression on the surface. Me nodded his head. Anything else? Davis added. Claire thought a moment before replying. Thanks to you, everything is now fine between Clara and us. Honestly, I didn't expect the problem was that. She paused and realized what she was about to say. I know, Mother, I know. I'm not ready to receive another beating, Davis exclaimed and hurriedly shook his hand. Scoundrel, Claire blushed as she shouted and walked away as if she ran away from the room. Mother becomes embarrassed so easily. Davis laughed as he looked in a direction. It was a good thing that Aaliyah was in the bath. Otherwise, she might have noticed how easygoing he is with his mother. For the next few days, Davis used this chance to break through to the next level in soul-forging cultivation, and without failing a single time, he luckily reached peak-level infant soul stage. Other than that, he looked for a disguise art in the royal library. He managed to find one after a long period of search. It was a peak-level Earth-grade disguise technique, which pretty much conceals his appearance and physique. He didn't want anyone to know who he was in the first place. His actions were pretty strange these few days. He checked left and right almost every minute. Luckily, no one saw him acting suspiciously during these few days. Davis somehow managed to convince Elia to follow up. She had no choice but to reluctantly agree. He gave her instructions on how to make it look like he was always sleeping during the night. He planned to sneak out every night and roam openly during the day. He then, with his family, sent off Logan to the Alfred Kingdom on the final day. Finally, I never thought there would be a day where that idiot will leave the Imperial Castle. Davis screamed like an idiot. Who is that idiot? Ellie asked doubtfully. Him, the Emperor, of course. Davis grinned and laughed. You know no fear. Elia looked at him with a dumbfounded expression as she couldn't imagine how he could spout this nonsense. These two returned to the study after sending off the Emperor in the evening. Listen, I'll sneak out tonight. Don't ask me if I get caught. Elia nodded as she knew this plan of his beforehand. All right, at that time you can say just that I snuck out without you even knowing, or you can even just say that I knocked you out and went somewhere. He then thought of something. But if Clara is the one doing the questioning or she is present nearby, don't answer, just feinte. Why? Elia turned confused. Simple, lies don't work on her. That's all if you say, so Elia had her doubts but chose to do as he said. Meanwhile, he went to visit everyone and played with Claire, Clara, and Diana while Edward Lauret, the second prince who was still a toddler, continued to sleep peacefully without a care in the world. This went on till he bid farewell to everyone and returned to the study in the night. In the study, he put on a peak-level Earth-grade black robe, which helps him to conceal his aura, but he only wore it as second-tier protection to conceal his true appearance when using the dark concealing shroud art and disguise art together. All right, Elia, I'll be going now. Remember to take care and protect yourself, Davis prepared to sneak out. Take Corellia replied worriedly. Davis nodded and left. He was as silent as possible when he made his way out, even though such secrecy wasn't required when he was using his dark concealing shroud art, which was way effective in the night. He remembered the guard's patrol routine during these few days, so he was able to avoid people on his way out. He didn't jump out of the Imperial Castle because he feared that he might possibly trigger a detection formation that sounded an alarm. Davis finally reached the entrance of the Imperial Castle and exited smoothly. Yes, I made it out. With a silent roar, he walked on the streets. He looked to his left and right and saw those buildings which called his feet to step on them. However, he didn't dare run across on top of the building, afraid that he might trigger a formation, though he genuinely wanted to do that since every fantasy character he read did that at least once. Such hindrance, I might have been able to do that in a starting village, Davis reminisced ruefully. There were a lot of people walking around the streets. Even at night, people were pretty active as cultivators didn't require much sleep at all in the first place. Sleep was just a luxury to the cultivators unless, of course, they tired themselves out. Should I visit Evelyn? It's already been a year. No. Maybe I should visit her secretly. Somehow he felt like he was having an affair on this lonely night. Davis shook his head and reflected. Yes, it is just difficult to talk to her in public. If I don't talk to her alone, then it will be quite difficult to get a true answer from her. Reasoning it like that, he left the streets and made his wards with the family manner as he knew that he would not find her in the Calden Pill store at this time. Even if he made his way to the Calden Pill store, he knew that he would get caught as he would trigger a formation or possibly get caught by an expert while he sneakily enters the Calden Emporium. He arrived at the Calden family manor and maintained a certain distance from it. It looked like a Chinese-style manor. He more or less guessed that it would be like this since Evelyn wore a cheongsam. I did come, but now, how do I possibly let her know that I'm here? He had no idea, so he circled the manor, hoping to spot her through a window or something. He didn't use his soul sense, afraid that he might be found out by an expert nearby. Even the guards regularly patrolled the courtyards and outer streets, making it difficult for him to even enter the manor. After all, this was none other than the Calden family manor, a noble family manor. He went around and waited for a long time, but still couldn't find or guess which room she was in. Davis narrowed his eyes in exasperation, feeling that he wouldn't be able to meet her today, at least not without a well-thought-out plan, as he possibly couldn't get caught. Otherwise, he would just be humiliating his imperial family. He simply sighed and left the place. Just when he left, a beautiful, lonely silhouette could be seen glancing out of the window, and that glance was towards the towering royal castle. A sigh escaped from that silhouette before it closed the window. Davis walked around the streets with his head down, thinking about what else he could do to enjoy his day out as he entered an alley. However, all right, you bastards, care to come out? He had a vague feeling that he was being followed right after he left the Imperial Castle, but he then just took it as his insecurity during the night acting up. But the feeling just kept getting stronger while he was circling the Calden family manor. After a moment of silence, a burst of eerie laughter sounded out. You sure are perceptive, but how did you get out of the Imperial Castle without triggering any formations, brother? Are you an expert assassin? Two silhouettes appeared in the alley, both clad in black robes, maybe. Who are you two? Davis smirked as he sneakily used his soul sense on them, but he became shocked, his expression slightly changing. I didn't notice at first, but your voice is pretty young now that I hear it again. Ha, you can't be like that. You shouldn't probe fellow assassins like us. If we do that, then we will not be able to survive in this field. They openly took out their weapons and brandished them with aggressive poses. Now, brother, we can let this matter go if you promise to give us the method to bypass the Imperial Castle's formation. What do you say? Good deal, right? Davis knew why they would ask this, because they were stop bullshitting Case Farnwan and Cooper Hawkwood. You want to get reported? I just wanted to say that. Davis inwardly smiled while his expression was one of ease. The two silhouettes went silent as they were dumbfounded right now. These two were precisely the two noble family heads who led the rebels and somehow managed to escape the purge of the rebels. Brat, I don't know how you managed to discover our identity. Kamich, we'll take our leave now. Case Farwan backed out as he thought it wasn't wise to go against this fellow who could see through them even when they wore a disguise. And where do you think you two trash are going? Don't go too far! They both shouted as they turned to look back at him. Davis removed his hood while deactivating his dark concealing shroud art. With a grin on his face, he looked down on them condescendingly. You are the first prince! How can it be? Case Farwan exclaimed. I never expected the first prince to be this powerful at this age. Cooper Hawkwood had his eyes go wide while a faint sense of excitement abruptly swept through his heart, making him feel exhilarated. Luckily, he was stupid enough to get himself killed this early. They both then looked at each other as they laughed madly. Within a heartbeat, Case Farwan and Cooper Hawkwood instantly surrounded him from both sides. Surrender if you know what's good for you, Case Farwan mockingly uttered. His eyes were eyeing Davis like a snake, ready to plunge its fangs over his neck. Or else you can say goodbye to your life. Cooper Hawkwood continued as he threatened with a wide smile on his face. However, he looked like a demented dog. It could be seen that they were desperate, that Davis couldn't help but want to take advantage. Trash spouting nonsense. If you've got guts, go slay my father. Davis laughed as he shook his head, acting as if he was an arrogant young master. Oh, we'll do that in time. Unfortunately, for you, he just left the imperial capital today. Case Farwan grinned. He inwardly thanked the stupid prince for presenting an opportunity to get revenge. And you are the perfect bait for that. He. Cooper Hawkwood laughed hideously. Now, don't be in a hurry. We have all the time in the world to talk. Davis had a stiff face when he said that, and even took a step back. Itch, trying to delay for reinforcements. Won't work on us, brat. No, really, I just wanted to know who the mastermind behind your betrayal was. They went silent all of a sudden. I knew it. There was someone behind you, traitors. Davis exclaimed as if he just found out the truth. So what? We don't even care if you find out, Case Farwan said with an indifferent expression. What if a brat could get it? It wasn't worth hiding anyway. Or so he thought. What good is it if you even find out? You won't even be able to escape from us. Cooper Hawkwood sneered. As he said that, he made his move. Cooper Hawkwood, who was behind Davis, rushed at him at an incredible speed. Davis didn't move at all. He only glanced at the back calmly. Why, weak and slow, only useful for leeching off resources. Cooper Hawkwood thought that the little prince became frozen in fear. Just as he was going to severely injure the prince with his iron sword for making him miserable, he abruptly collapsed and fell over, crashing as he tumbled on the ground. Davis used his soul to write almost instantly as he saw Cooper Hawkwood make his move. I'm just really glad that I managed to break through peak-level infant soul stage, or it would be quite problematic for me to kill you too. Davis sighed as he turned to look at his other opponent, who shrunk back in disbelief. Who are you? You are not the first prince. Case Farwan dropped his weapon in fear. Hearing that, Davis sneered. Idiot. Now then, will you spit out the truth? Or Farwan turned back and immediately tried to escape without answering. He didn't even try to pick up his weapon, indicating that it was done on purpose to let his opponent's guard lower. Teach, coward? Davis still wanted to try out his newly trained powers on him, even though he knew he couldn't win with it. He just wanted to know his current prowess before he proceeded to kill them. But he changed his mind after he confirmed that there was something strange with the rebellion. Case Farwan immediately turns into my mindless slave, dies when he hears my voice give the command die. Case Farwan, just as Case Farwan tried to fly away, he stopped mid-air. He straightened his back as his eyes turned soulless. He turned back and dropped to the ground on all fours. Slave Case Farwan greets master. Looks like no one can escape the death book's grasp as long as it's within my limits. Davis mused as he saw Case Farwan really act like a slave, although he had no idea how long the death book will keep Case Farwan alive, but if it reached the limit, then it will immediately kill him anyway, so he wasn't worried. Who was the mastermind behind the rebellion? Davis asked without wasting his time. It was Emperor Traitor. Davis's sapphire eyes flashed with killing intent. Ah, so it was that vermin. Now the war actually makes sense. Why did he target our empire, though? The Lurid Empire is filled with riches with its peaceful disposition and mighty position in the Grand Sea continent with the previous emperor at the helm. No matter who sees it, it will be a big piece of the pie to the empires in the Grand Sea continent. What made you all defect to Emperor Traitor? Davis narrowed his eyes. He promised us that the Hawkwood family, or we would succeed as the royal family of this empire, with his backing once we have successfully killed all of the imperial family members. The other noble families were tricked by us into rebellion for various other reasons. All of his replies were like an automated voice, answering the question like a doll. Certainly mindless, Davis sighed as he thought. Killing Emperor Triter should be my father's job. Sadly, I have no use for this guy anymore. Davis instantly thought of killing him. But he hesitated. Wait a minute. Didn't he say something about assassin or something? Contemplating for a moment, he asked, "You became an assassin?" "Yes, I have become an assassin." "Why and when?" "After we lost the rebellion, we lost support from Emperor Triter. So I had no choice but to become an assassin to have my revenge against both Emperor Triter and Emperor Loret." "Oh, ambitious!" "And then, how did you two become assassins?" "We joined the Dark Earth organization to become an assassin." Teach Davis became exasperated by his single-minded answers. Can't this guy just answer detailedly? He grudgingly thought before he remembered. Right, I forgot. He is mindless. Wait, being an assassin. Isn't this a perfect opportunity for me to collect souls to refine? Hey, Davis's eyes glowed with an opportunistic glint. Feeling excited, he continued to question, what is the Dark Earth organization and how does one join it? The Dark Organization is the strongest assassin organization in this continent. Its headquarters is rumored to be situated in the Triter Empire. It has branches all over the continent. One can approach a branch to register for being an assassin. One has to complete a mission from the branch to be a member. Oh, has branches all over the continent. Is there one here? There is a branch here. Where is it? Behind Violet Joy House, there is an entrance to the underground. That is where the branch of the Dark Earth organization is situated in Joy House. Isn't that a brothel? His eyes shot wide open. But it makes sense because hiding behind a skirt is a means of camouflage as well. Does my imperial father know about this? Davis hesitantly asked. He knows, eh? Right? Davis became dumbfounded, but it made sense. Guess offending an assassin organization is a dumb thing to do. The question is, should I kill this person right now? He contemplated again for a moment before deciding against killing him. He didn't want to alert Logan into coming home, nor did he want to have their corpses in his spatial ring lest someone finds out by any chance. Store his corpse in your spatial ring and stay in a typical inn for a month near the Violet Joy House. Yes, Case Farnwan proceeded to store Cooper Hawkwood's corpse. And oh, where is the Violet Joy House again? Davis had a peculiar expression when he asked that. Case Farnwan's expression didn't change. He explained the location with a monotonous voice and left on Davis's command. Davis didn't dawdle and made his way to the red light district. This time he disguised himself as a short old man while activating his dark concealing shroud art. Words couldn't describe how he felt while after finally arriving at the red light district. Davis swallowed his saliva as he looked around. He could see many women with transparent and loose clothing. They were all scantily clad and added a type of glamour to this street. Various types of women with different types of revealing clothes. They were all beautiful to a certain extent, without any blemishes or pimples on their faces. Davis was cloaked, or else an older woman would have called out to him to enter their brothel already. Do they train in some beauty technique? Davis thought while staring at those women. They were all more or less beautiful, that he felt that they could be from wealthy families. Nevertheless, he chuckled, thinking that it was a good thing that he still hadn't hit puberty for some reason. Perhaps of his body tempering cultivation, or else he would have a certain problem currently in the lower part of his body while gazing at them. Ignoring the debaucherous atmosphere, Davis followed the instructions of Case Farnwan to reach the Violet Joy House. When he arrived at that place, he felt immensely awkward at being out of place. He pushed aside those emotions and circled the Violet Joy House. While he circled the Violet Joy House, he could not hear any of those sounds that should have been normally heard in these kinds of places. A soundproofing type formation, huh? How convenient while thinking about what other features this place had. He arrived behind Violet Joy House. There was a dilapidated door that was half open. One would normally think that this place is where they would procure the new women as slaves. Davis moved closer to the half-broken down door as he checked for any formations that might perhaps alert some people. Seeing that there was no formation in his vision, he relaxed and went inside. No formation? But that makes sense as well. It would only increase people's suspicion and curiosity if there was one right at the entrance. As he walked inside slowly while still being cloaked, he found a tunnel that led to an underground cellar. In the underground cellar, Davis could see a black-robed man was seated there in a chair. He went slightly closer to him and checked around for any possible routes. Unfortunately, he didn't find any routes, but only found a formation. He then closed his eyes in contemplation. There's no more route. Only a sentry is put over in charge at this checkpoint. Guess I could only go through him then. Davis sighed. Having decided his next course of action, he spoke in a hoarse voice while still being cloaked. Are you the one who's in charge of selecting recruits for the Dark Earth organization? Who? The black-robed man who heard that fell from his chair from being spooked by Davis. Davis then stopped using his dark concealing shroud art, which made him visible. The black-robed man was now able to see the sudden appearance of a short old man who was also clad in a black robe. Such concealment, Senior, you are surely an expert, which our Dark Earth organization needs. The black-robed man clasped his hands and bowed slightly. So, what's the method to join? Hearing that, the black-robed man was immensely joyful. He hurriedly explained the procedure for one to join the Dark Earth organization. For one to join the Dark Earth organization, that person must be able to complete an assassination mission handed over by a certain person. And for this place, that certain person is me. Saying that with an animated expression, he took out 3 scrolls and gave it to Davis. Normally, I would give out only 1 scroll for a recruit to complete a mission, but since Senior is so powerful, I can give out 3 scrolls. Senior can choose any one of them and hand over the remaining 2 scrolls. Actually, this process in itself is unnecessary for you, as it is clear that you will be able to rank at least as a peak-level Earth-grade assassin, but rules are rules. Without those rules, the higher-ups definitely will not be able to run this organization for much longer. The black-robed man explained that he was afraid that Senior would misunderstand why he was being given out such a low-level mission. Wait, I never said that I wanted to join this Dark Earth organization. Davis interjected while the black-robed man's eyes went wide in confusion. What are the restrictions your organization imposes on its members? Hearing that, the black-robed man now understood and chuckled. Ha, there's no need to worry about that, Senior. Our organization doesn't impose any restriction on its grade members and above. Only mortal grade members are confined to our branches until they can achieve Earth grade rank. With Senior's strength, the organization wouldn't restrict your movements and whereabouts at all. In reality, our members just register themselves with their nicknames or titles, so their real identity is even hidden from the Dark Earth organization as well, unless they are stupid enough to reveal it. Good! With this, I will be able to increase my power quickly while assassinating people. Davis thought while celebrating inwardly. All right, Davis turned to look at the 3 scrolls. He opened the first one. Mission Assassinate, Mark Type Assassination, Grade Low-Level, Mortal Grade Mission Requirement Description. A person who runs an orphanage near the Kyle restaurant in the Imperial capital. His cultivation is at peak-level energy condensing stage. Targets image reward low-level mortal grade dark organizations badge mission. Issuer anonymous. Reading that, Davis furrowed his brows. A person who runs an orphanage. An innocent. He immediately closed it and saw the next one. His brows furrowed even further. It still concerned killing an innocent. Leave it. Let's see the next one. He opened the last scroll and read it. Mission Assassinate Grimes, Type Assassination, Grade Low-Level Mortal Grade Mission Requirement. Description: a greedy pig who rapes innocent young girls purely for fun. I was one of the victims. He lives near the slums of the royal capital and is a local thug leader. His cultivation is around peak-level energy condensing stage. Targets image reward level mortal grade dark organizations. Badge mission issuer anonymous. Davis groaned in disgust. He handed over the last scroll to the black-robed man. I choose this. He then gave back the other 2 scrolls. I see. Guess Senior doesn't like killing the innocent. That's fine as well. The black-robe nodded while looking at the mission contents. Davis narrowed his eyes. You're determining my character. It's not like that, but yes. For future references when I could possibly recommend some missions to you. The black-robe man shook his hands. Don't bullshit with me. Spit out the truth. Davis used his soul to pressure the black-robed man. He was in the peak-level infant soul stage, with his soul being 5 times as powerful. It would even work against a high-level young soul stage expert, much less this weak black-robed man. I apologize, Senior. It's a part of the recruitment. We have to see at least what kind of an assassin you are, the black-robed man blurted out in fear. Then, what kind am I? Davis hideously grinned, his expression baleful. I think Senior is someone who upholds moral values. The black-robed man gulped. A few seconds passed further, making him tremble in fear. Hummich. Davis then retracted his soul from pressuring the black-robed man and turned back to leave. Next time, I should be careful of people probing me. He frowned while reflecting. Senior, don't worry. When you return, I will keep some peak-level Earth-grade missions which are under your preferences so that you can climb up higher in rank, the black-robed man shouted. Davis ignored him and walked away while activating the dark concealing shroud art again.